screw. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, meaning if you turn to the right, it's going to tighten it. To loosen it, you go to the left. Okay, so because I'm tightening it that way, this direction, you want to put the wire on the same way. Okay, very important. You always try to remember to do stuff like that. Okay, so here's my bad switch. It is definitely a bad switch. It's not working. They're only like $2 to change this. So don't think you're gonna try to be a rocket scientist and try to figure out how to fix your old light switch. Okay, just go down to the store. I went down to my friendly Lowe's and got it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these screws on the side because I'm not going to use them. I'm just going to tighten them up like that. Okay. I'm going to tighten them up like that. That way I'm going to keep the screws out of my way. And then I'm going to use these holes. One at there and one down there, just like we did before. And I'm going to look at my ground screw and make sure that's unscrewed all the way, which it is. And what I like to do is I like to get the ground screw on there first. That way it's easier to work with. I'm going to fit that underneath there, and I'm going to hold it right there. There's a little nib on there, and you want to put the ground screw on the other side of that. Now, what I can do is, see, the other person didn't do this, but I can crimp. I mean, I'm just kind of tightening the end of the copper wire on there so it's not going to fall off or anything. Now I'm going to hold that. I'm going to just tighten that down as it was before. Okay. It's got a slot on there too, and I can use my other screwdriver, my slotted standard screwdriver for that. Now I can take that, and in fact, see, because this ground screw is on the top and not the bottom, this wire's got to be reconfigured a little bit. Yeah. I got the red one at the bottom, and I don't, like I said, I don't have to have the red at the bottom, but I think I'm still going to. Okay, so now I can just twist it over and push it in the hole. And push down tight. Let's see here, and it should. There's a little fitting in there, so when you push it in there, it's tight. See, I can't pull it out now. I do the same one. Don't put it in a little. Don't try to get it in a little slot where I had the screwdriver. You want it in the round hole, and voila! It's as simple as that. Okay, now you remember how we had the wires in there. Because the ground wire is up at the top, I'm just going to kind of pull down on it a little bit. And I'm going to sneak these wires back in there, like so. And I'm going to push it in all the way, try to keep the screws out of the way. And with 14 gauge wire, usually you got 14 gauge wire, which is very flexible. And you can spaghetti it in there and push on it real easy. Yeah, but you want to make sure there's nothing preventing it from pushing in. That's why, see, usually they come with the screws in there and a little backing washer in there. Sometimes I'll take that out if the box is so packed. I want to push it in there all the way. So you can take this and just make sure you've got plenty of give in there so that when you tighten it up, it's going to go in there nice and tight, because these screws are only going into a plastic box, so there's only plastic threads. If it's not going, you have a wire behind there and you think, oh, I'll just tighten it up. Well, think again, because you're going to strip the metal screw out of the plastic box. Okay, and then I'm going to take it and kind of twist it back and forth to make sure it's going in straight. And I don't like to use an electric drill for tightening up the screws. I like to do it by feel. It doesn't take very long to do this. Okay, before I get it tight, I'm going to kind of line it up where I think it should go. And this one kind of moved a little bit because the screw is slightly loose from before. And I'm going to try to get the gaps the same. Sometimes you'll have a little indentation from where the old one got pushed into the sheetrock. I'm not going to get it too tight. I'm just going to get it snug first. That looks pretty good. Before I tighten it up all the way, I want to make sure it's, it looks straight that way. And then I'm going to take the cover plate and hold it up there. I don't want to just cram it on there. I mean, I could push it on right there, but I can see a slight gap there, a bigger gap on that second. You see, if I screwed it on right there, see the gap right here is bigger than there or there. So I'm going to take this switch and I'm going to slide it to the left just a little bit. Okay. Get you reset up there. So I don't have it tight. I could take my screwdriver and kind of slide it over like that, being careful not to hit any wires back there. Okay, something like that. As it tightened, it kind of moved. Okay, so I want to hold it up there again and see how it goes, and that looks pretty good. In fact, this one here could be slid over a little bit. And maybe it wasn't perfectly set when I initially took it out because, we didn't work on either these other two switches. Okay. Wow, that looks nice. Looks like that side could be pushed over a little bit. My pet peeve is when this is flush, I like to have it flush all the way, not one edge of that sticking out too far, like this first switch could have been. Well, it's got some trim around it. I'm not going to mess with it too much, but when I tighten this one down right there, I can see that side kind of pushing right in where it's supposed to be. And if it's still sticking out at that point, you push this out and then tweak the switch to the left or to the right and then fit it back in there, tighten it all back up. Okay, that's looking nice. Okay, looks like the switch is going to be good. Now all we got to do is put the screws back in up here. The trick with those, just don't make them too tight. Some people try to tighten these screws up, and depending on what kind of cover plate you have, you could crack that. These are easy to crack. You just want to make them snug. Some nowadays they have vinyl, and they're designed not to crack, but if you go too tight, you can indent it, and that doesn't look very nice either. Okay, so we just want to make these snug. I've seen some electricians, they like to line all these up like vertically or something, or sideways, but I just make them snug. It doesn't really matter to me if the actual slot on the screw is all the same. When is the last time you looked at a light switch and saw which way the screw is facing? Huh? I just make it snug because the wall's not perfect. Okay. Alright, so there you go. That's all I'm going to do. And we're done with that. Now all we have to do, what do we have to do now? We've got to go back out to the electrical panel. We've got to turn that breaker back on and make sure it works. Now you might think, oh, okay, that's fine, we don't have to see this. Well, yeah, you probably don't, but sometimes people have questions about certain things. Okay, so we're just gonna come back here, get you set up so I can do this and you can see what I'm doing. Very simple to turn it back on. Okay, breaker's here, and all I have to do is turn it back on. And if it's all wired up right, it should not trip or anything. If you do something and you get ready to turn your breaker back on and it kind of goes duh-duh, and it trips, then to reset it, you're gonna have to shove it, turn it off all the way before you turn it back on. And chances are maybe you're not wired up properly or something like that. But okay, make sure it's all pushed tight, and it should all line up with all of the other ones. It does. Looks fine. Now I'm gonna do that and push that back over. Not all panels are the same. Sometimes you have to push that down and pull it straight out. Just kind of figure it out. Okay, now let's go back in and see what we got. Okay, no monkey business so far. See, I know the lights are back on because that was for these two. Okay, here's my other one, and this is off. Off is always down on this type of paddle switch. You turn the top and the light should go on, and look at that. That light's on. Turn it off. On, off. Okay. The reason why that one's not on, just because the twizzle is probably just shut off. Okay. Because she said both of these lights are hooked together. So let's just see if they are, in fact. Okay, we do that there. We'll come back over here, getting you all dizzy. And let's just see. Yep, sure enough. Okay. Look at that. $2 and you are golden. Now see how nice that is? It doesn't even look like we ever touched this location. Everything looks the same. And see that trim. Why did I point out that trim from before? That little edge on the light switch. Don't all light switches have that? No. When these paddles first came out, they didn't have that trim around them. So if you have an older house, let's say, and you need to replace your paddle light switch, you might not have that piece of trim. So when you go to the store, I'm not even sure if you can buy them without the trim, that little edge anymore. I think you can in some places, but you're going to have to look real hard. It's always nice to match up existing conditions when you can. Now, if you want, you can. This was the old light switch. Before I throw this away, I'm going to go ahead and take this ground screw off, and I can save this. You never know when you're going to need an extra ground screw. Why throw this away? Okay, it's the exact right size. It's green to show it's ground. If you want, you could take this and you could save these little screws. Let's see. Okay, there's a little washer on the back. You just kind of pull it. It comes off the washer. I don't necessarily need to save these little washers. I don't really use them for much. Okay, and I don't need these side screws. If you want, you can take those screws off too, but I'm going to end up throwing this part away, and I'm going to save this for next time if needed. Well, another project complete. Now what am I going to talk about next time? We got a linoleum floor here. This is a linoleum floor that's been down for 5 or 15 years. Check this out. Look at this. Kaboom. Look at that. I can't believe that. The linoleum has worn right through the floor. See that? There's nothing there. This is the concrete floor. And so is this, all from this chair, rubbing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm not sure, I'm going to patch this, and I want you to stick around and see what I do for that if you're interested. That's all I got for this time, but I'll be back with more videos.